People deluded. I'm back again. Arsenal and injuries. A match made in hell for us Arsenal fans, probably in heaven for rival fans. From August to date till December, we've been dealing with injuries. Happy to see Smith-Rowe back, as you would have seen in that video. According to newspaper outlets, he's back in full training, which is music to my ears. You know I'm the head of the Smith-Rowe fan club. He continues to be linked with moves away. Obviously, he's almost forgotten goods at the Emirates. From one star boy to two others, the Brazilian Martinelli and Englishman Bukayo Saka. Allegedly, they were not in training today. There are some rumors that say Bukayo Saka has a knock and Martinelli is ill. You would imagine they could at least take the day off against PSV tomorrow. Mikel Arteta has a press conference and he'll shed light on such. Monaco's Youssouf Fofana has spoken on his future. He's been linked with Arsenal as well as other clubs people. The 24-year-old has expressed a desire to remain at Monaco beyond the end of the season. According to Fabrizio Romano and RMC, he is drawing interest from Manchester United, Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, even Fulham and Nottingham Forest, among other clubs. He's contracted until 2025. He has said, for now, next year, if everything goes well, I will be a Monaco player. Now, obviously, he's going to say that, whether he joins Arsenal or any other club, it's not the time to talk about transfers, and he's going to be very respectful to his current employers. I would love him at the Emirates. He impressed in the Emirates Cup. Bring him in January if possible, really and truly. Dennis Bergkamp has been linked with a return to Arsenal Football Club in a coaching capacity. It's unclear on what that means, but we'd all love the legendary Dutchman back. Now, big up you lot for tuning in, people. Don't forget to hit the like button. And I know the creative juices have been flowing, so don't forget to comment your own opinions. Now, in relation to Emile Smith-Rowe, as I said, I don't think there's a bigger fan of Emile Smith-Rowe in the Arsenal fan base than me. In fact, probably his family. Obviously, you can't be too attached to players. It's not what you've done in the past. It's what you do in the future. But I think fans... we got to remember when we weren't that good of a team and there weren't, right now we're not perfect, but you look around, there's some very likable players in the starting 11 and the whole 20-man squad. We've come a long way and still got a long way to go. But when we didn't have this, when we needed something to believe in, it was to a degree Martinelli and Saka and also Smith-Rowe. So I believe, in the same way, he gave us something to believe in. I know football fans have a short memory and the team is getting better and we'd love additions, and it's not what you're doing in the past, it's what you're doing in the present and the injury concerns. And obviously, like I said, there's full bias because I'm a big fan of Smith-Rowe. Any other players, I'm not perfect. I might be like you lot. But let's give this guy some support. For Smith-Rowe, he has to stay fit. He has to, because on a couple of occasions this season, when it looked like spots are going to open up in the starting 11 or there's opportunities, ultimately he's not been available. We need him to stay fit because we need every player to stay fit. Obviously, if he steps back into the first team now, you're not getting ahead of Martinelli currently. You're probably behind Trossard in the pecking order. The number 10's Martin Odegaard. Kai Havertz has probably had his most positive period in an Arsenal career. And, when Kai Havertz, that wasn't the case, and he was a bit of a super sub a few weeks or game fixtures ago. Maybe that could have opened up the realm for Smith-Rowe, similar to, you look around August when Fabio Vieira was impacting off the bench and he got a couple of starts, I think, in the North London derby and didn't grab his opportunity. Whether he's going to play in the 8, the 10 or the left wing, that's Smith-Rowe's bread and butter. And as you know, there's a lot of games. In fact, if he is even fit to be on the bench tomorrow against PSV, you would love to see him. And obviously, I don't think Smith-Rowe is going to be sold in January, but he is a player that, on one hand, you're not going to get the finances that you may have got when he was on the cusp of England call-ups. In fact, getting England call-ups, got handed the number 10, was one of the first names on the team sheet and was one of our better players. You're not going to get the money you could have probably got for him then. And I do think if you do sell him cheaper than you would have got then, I do think the man will stay fit and show his quality elsewhere. But I understand, difficult decisions have to be made. As we've seen with Kieran Tierney and Aaron Ramsdale, there's disposable goods, and Smith-Rowe is one of the players that I would say that Arsenal be open to listening to, maybe not necessarily in January, but in the summer, that could get a decent fee. You'd imagine Aaron Ramsdale brings in a decent fee, Smith-Rowe, decent fee. Thomas Partey is a quality player, but he's contracted until 2025. We've not heard nothing about a renewal. We heard that he was available for the right price in the summer. We might sell him to obviously shed some wages off the wage bill. Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah, dependent on who walks into this club, they may struggle. I do think one thing that helps Nketiah, Nelson and Smith-Rowe is that them being homegrown or English-based players, obviously we need an X amount of English players to be able to register. So that could probably save them. In fact, You know, I think Saliba counts as homegrown now. Obviously, you've got Bukayo Saka there, Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah. I do think actually, despite being Spanish, because he's been in England for a while, David Raya. And there's obviously a couple of players that at this time of making the video haven't come to my head, but would love to see Smith-Rowe play. Don't want to see him go in January, and welcome his return to full fitness, purely because whether it's defensively, midfield, or up front, we've had injuries. We've got players playing with knocks. We've had to probably rush some players back and play them with injuries. So any players we can keep fit, would love that. That being said, as you lot know, in the January market, we need to do something where, for me, central mid is concerned, and definitely a defensive body, whether that's a centre half or a fullback or someone that can play all of them or whatnot. People, we need at least one midfielder. I am starting to believe Arsenal might dip into the loan market. Who that is, I don't know, because I can't see Arsenal spending 40, 50 million. Obviously, the Zubamendis, the Douglas Luizes, if these guys are available and Arsenal genuinely want them and there's a willingness to get the deal done, of course, make it happen. But for a variety of reasons, price tag, you know, their current clubs are trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve, an element of them being inflated fees. And obviously, Arsenal in a position of weakness because we need midfielders makes me a bit pessimistic on bringing in individuals like that. And it does make you believe maybe we'll do the loan thing, because I can't see us spending, you know, for a more conservative target, 20 to 30 million on a player that's just going to tie us over for a couple of months, you know. But whether it's an established base player, whether it's someone that's emerging, as long as they're the right player and can help us and bring something to the table, I'm all for that, people. Obviously, you don't want to hear Martinelli and Saka are not training. I mean, Saka, we'd love to bring in a player that can compete with you / deputize for you. You'd imagine if there was any game to kind of rest players in this condensed December period, it would be the dead rubber against PSV in the Champions League. Not being disrespectful to PSV or the Champions League or Mikel Arteta, all the expectations we're trying to set. So I don't really think it's a dead rubber because there's everything to play for, but we're through the group, you know. In an ideal world, there's a couple of rotations. Someone like Aaron Ramsdale, who's played no part in the Champions League competition so far, despite helping us qualify for it, could get a run out. You'd imagine Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah, you know, could get run-outs. And as we've seen with several players, Benjamin White, you know, Gabriel Jesus, even Martin Odegaard, Zinchenko, if players haven't been out for a while, obviously Timber, Tomiyasu, Partey, there's been little knocks. So we need to tread carefully in that regards. On Dennis Bergkamp, bring him. You know, for me, if, you know, there's some reports say he'll work with the academy, etc. You know, to have those talismanic figures like Dennis Bergkamp and people of that ilk at the Emirates, that's what it's about. It'll be the young players would be spoiled to learn from him, if I'm completely honest. And as much as it's the youth thing, I would love Dennis Bergkamp to work with the young players in and around our first team. I'd love for him, and obviously I'm not at training, but I would love for him to take, you know, the Martinellis, the Sakas, even Martin Odegaard and all of these players and do some finishing drills after training. Obviously, when you think of Dennis Bergkamp, you think of goals, you think of creativity, you think of intelligence, you think of speed of thought, you know. How do you get to that? Being a good footballer, in my opinion, is about asking yourself the right decisions. And I think Dennis Bergkamp, on top of helping with finishing and a wealth of experience with dealing with expectations and everything else, it would be nice for him as well, because I do think a couple of our players were on the right path, but decision-making can improve. So they'd be spoiled to learn from Dennis Bergkamp. In relation to Saka and Martinelli's fitness, you know, I do think, you know, Mikel Arteta, I assume when we've had our training session this morning, we're probably packing our bags and making the short journey to Holland to play against PSV. You'd imagine when that press conference comes, Mikel Arteta will be able to spread some light on Martinelli and Saka. We can't afford to lose any more players, you know. Again, we've got PSV, which is a bit of a dead rubber. Obviously, we've got Brighton at home where we need to react to defeat. This month, we still have West Ham and Liverpool, let alone what's the one thing that makes a Liverpool game even more trickier than Arsenal versus Liverpool? It's Liverpool at Anfield. And last year, we was flirting with getting 3 points. You saw how it ended, and we was probably lucky that we even got a point based on the second half. Shout out to Aaron Ramsdale and Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah's got to be my favourite player in the Premier League, excluding Arsenal-based players, purely because he prevented Spurs from winning the Champions League, and he was nice enough to miss a penalty and let us walk away from Anfield with something. But on a serious note, folks, let me know your thoughts on Fofana. I would love him. You know, I've done videos on him when he was at Strasbourg. We need a midfielder. If there's an element by Monaco to get a deal done, and Arsenal really do like him, you have seen some reports that Mikel Arteta spoke with him during the Emirates Cup and he likes him a lot. If there's a feasibility with getting a deal done, I'm all for it. Don't know how feasible it is with this whole FFP stuff we hear. But let me know your thoughts on potential injuries to Saka and Martinelli, what Smith-Rowe's return to fitness could be, how you feel about Dennis Bergkamp returning to the club, and also Fofana. Don't forget to check out the rest of the videos. Turn on your notifications because you know I'm going to spam your timelines at some point. You lot stay safe, stay blessed. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Let's go, DG Nation. But on that note, stay blessed, stay safe. One love.
So it's always just that active and defending.
I think it's like